Solo Sikoa has pinned Roman Reigns, and we might have our first look at the Bloodline versus Bloodline War Games lineups after this Crown Jewel match. Hello, welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast review of WWE Crown Jewel 2024. I'm Oli Davis. I'm joined by a returning Professor Dan Layton.
Hello, hi. How are you?
Do you not want to do more of a all singing, all dancing musical theatre intro?
Everything's as if we never said goodbye. It's a Sunset Boulevard song about a faded silent film star coming back to the movies, and she's been forgotten, but she's never really been forgotten.
And that's no relation to what we're...
Oh yeah, like everyone remembers me. I'm still really famous.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you haven't already, please press the thumbs up button, give us a subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Did
you just briefly forget how YouTube works? Did you forget your little rundown?
I was going to ask you to sort of do this part in musical theatre style, like an improvised song.
We haven't got to that part of the module yet.
I thought of that when you were speaking, forgot about it, and then started to do the throws and remembered it.
You remembered you were going to do
that brief malfunction was me remembering a half-baked idea.
Yeah.
Do you want to do?
No, I think the moment's passed. I think...
Hit the thumbs up, here, give us a subscribe, and the comments down below. It's a bit of a Chicago-y style.
Yeah, it's very Fosse. I saw the Fosse neck you were doing. Yeah. It was quite nice.
Are you going to write that down?
Yeah. No, I'm actually recording this. I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to flesh that out into a fully baked idea. Maybe change the entire industry.
Cook.
Yeah, cook, and then I'll eat. Or rather, they will eat.
Yes.
And together we will snatch wigs.
Leave a comment down below with what you thought of Crown Jewel. And send in your chat gables to wrestletalk.com/support.
Is that what they call it?
We'll read out every single one over $5.
I strongly
we were
support
going
it.
back and forth, I think, before you left, but someone said chat gables.
Great.
Like, we can't beat that.
There it is. That's it.
Our opening thing we're talking about is the Bloodline match. It was the opening match on the show, which I was surprised by. I was watching it live last night, and the pre-show bit is counting down, and they showed Solo Sikoa walking to gorilla position backstage.
Yeah. Because I watched it this morning because I was at Hustle yesterday, so I wasn't there for it live. I didn't watch the pre-show, so they showed you him on the way. Yeah, so you knew already.
3-4 minutes before. Oh, there he goes. Jackie Redmond's like, there he goes. He's walking to gorilla.
Off he goes.
Yeah, off he goes, little scout with his bully friends. And opened because I guess the Crown Prince wanted the Crown Jewel belt to be the most important thing on this show. So that was the main event.
Well, it's interesting because you've got two. Obviously, there were two of those matches, so you could have made an argument to bookend the show.
One's with women.
No, it's a good point. And actually, there was a chap on the front row on his phone the entire time. So maybe egg on my face. But no, the whole business of like they talked about it a lot at WrestleMania, didn't they? Like, if you either want to go on very first or you want to go on very last. Yeah. So those are your two main events. The opener. It used to very much not be that way. It's your opener or your close.
Or your you could have the third to last match because then you'd have a bathroom break.
That's true. Yeah. But in all seriousness, they've done a really interesting job of making most matches feel like a big deal on these cards these days having to the point where there were 7 matches on this. It got to the US title match, and I was like, God, this is loads of matches. Whatever happened to the good old days of 4? What happened to all the entrances? I like those the most.
Well, that's a takeover style, isn't it?
Yeah,
you have 5 matches on a card, and they all feel really important because of it.
Yeah, very much. So it was interesting as well to see Solo come out first, to know that Roman wasn't having the big main event entrance in his own team. Do you know what I mean? What did I write down about that music? Yeah, if they can stretch this out to WrestleMania in some way, I will get emotional at Roman's theme. That theme is so big and swooping that it feels like such a big deal. But the fact that he came out with Jimmy and then Jey got the main event entrance was such an interesting...
Well, the whole story was established from those entrances, wasn't it? Because Solo comes out, Jacob Fatu, whose catchphrase seems to be, I love you, Solo!
It really does. He really does.
Which I like.
It's important to tell people that you love them when you do.
And then you got the Tongans there. But they're all in black and red matching gear. But then Roman and Jimmy come out. They're also in black and red gear. That's matching the bad new guys.
Yeah.
And Jey comes out. He's got his own separate entrance from the rest of his team. He comes through the crowd like Roman used to do.
When everyone thought he was supposed to be the big baby face, but he never could be.
And he's got a totally different look on. He's got the baby blue and white and a bit of red on his gear.
Kind of,
yeah. And the crowd are all doing the yeet hand movements with him. He feels totally separate from these people. And the story of the match was these guys aren't on the same page. The old bloodline, the new bloodline are, and therein lies the seeds of defeat for Roman.
Yeah, it was really interesting from all of the semiotic perspective, I guess, of how are we going to point to the distinction between these two teams, one really unified and one decidedly not. The colors, as you mentioned,
the pacing,
different entrances, even the fact that Jay's wearing sunglasses. Okay, you're doing viewpoints. I appreciate that you remembered that from upstairs. There's an acting thing called viewpoints where there are various different layers that you have to think about in terms of the way you move your bodies, and I was going on upstairs about how I can relate them to pro wrestling. So
you
can in this scenario, you absolutely can. But Jay's wearing his big sunglasses and he looks like a proper main event star, and Roman looks like Roman Reigns, but it's such a distinct separation, such that when the match starts and you have the Usos down since day one doing the tags. Knowing each other's, they've not lost a step even though they've been apart for over a year, and then Roman is not quite on the same page.
The one part of this story that I think this is a really good story, and it's still really good the way they've told it over the last couple of weeks, but it is a bit Game of Thrones Series 7 when everything took seasons to travel from one part of Westeros to the other.
Yeah,
but all of a sudden in Series 7, boom, I'm above the wall now. Boom, I'm over here.
Yeah.
And that seems to be what happened with Roman accepting the Usos back in.
Yeah.
Not that it's all happy families, because as we saw, there's loads of tension here. But I would
most of it held in Roman's jaw. Did you see that? There was a lot of tension there.
I would have liked that to have been told just a bit more explicitly and over a longer period of time, which is Roman having to deal with this idea that he has to treat the Usos not as subordinates anymore, but as equals. And how, he's so used to being a tribal chief to this very hierarchical structure that he won't be able to do that right away. When actually, when it happens, it's Jey who's doing most of the stuff. He's like, no, let me go in. I want to start. No, I'll tag in Jimmy rather than you, Roman. Rather than that tension coming from Roman himself.
I see what you mean. It's interesting because I think when you set out your checkpoints, we've got War Games at the end of the month. Then obviously I assume they'll do something for day one again.
Well, it's Saturday night's main event.
Saturday main event,
December.
Yeah. Then you got your Rumble, and then it's Mania in the middle of April. That's actually a while away. That's a fairly long time away. And knowing that they wanted to get to Bloodline versus Bloodline for War Games, we've all assumed since day one-ish. It's interesting that they do have to do a little bit of a fast forward here to get to the point where the OG Bloodline can be together for that purpose. But where I think they've done quite well is that it is shaky ground.
Yeah.
And including the post-match, which we'll get to in a minute. I think, yes, they've got this reunion, but it is uneasy. It is not a full all is forgiven, let's have a big cuddle. It's a very, tense, unsteady. It didn't work. Roman lost. He got pinned. Yeah. Clean as clean can be. Well, actually, he did. When you get down to the run of the match, this ref bump was deeply unnecessary. But the it's and then the post match still was uneasy. There's uneasy. I think their War Games will be uneasy as well. So for me, it's not quite as fast forward as it could have been. I think if they'd have just made it be like, everything's fine, bro. Never mind all that mental anguish you put me through. I thought Jay's promo on SmackDown, for instance, was really, really good.
Oh yeah,
to put that over. And Roman doesn't seem too pleased about having to eat any humble pie. So that's kind of interesting.
I want him to be less pleased.
You want even less pleased?
Yeah, I want him to quite resent that he's having to do this.
Yeah. I mean, there's still plenty of time for that, I think, is my point.
So that's the basic story. Jey and Jimmy are getting tagged in. You're building to this Roman hot tag, who has not had a singles match since Mania.
Who?
Roman.
Roman, yeah.
We still haven't had that singles match. If the next match is going to be a War Games match, well, we're not going to get a singles match there either.
Nope.
He's got a pretty sweet deal.
Oh, I thought about that. It is a lovely deal, gal.
And he doesn't hop in until, last 5 minutes of the match to do the hot tag.
He has to come out and have everyone go mental over him, have people scream his name for 20 minutes, and then he gets to tag in. Do a little 80s punch kick, and then go home.
So Roman eventually tags in, and this is like the final third of the match now. And he just goes straight up to Solo Sikoa. They have a yay boo spot. But Roman gets the upper hand pretty easily, pretty fast. And then he's going to beat up Solo Sikoa. But Solo counters a spear into a spike. 1, 2. Oh, actually, that should have been 3.
It was pretty 3, wasn't it?
Because Jimmy didn't make the breakup in time. So the referee, even though they're told to call everything as a shoot, I think did make the right choice there.
I mean, yeah, also, they got quite lucky insofar as the camera was behind them so that they could sort of do a little bit of a, no, actually, Jimmy did break up the pin. Just don't pay attention to the fact that you absolutely saw that he didn't. Like, the pin doesn't go to 3. You cut to an overhead shot. Jimmy's there. You can kind of... Yeah. We all saw it. It was a flub, but... But
the crowd moved on. They didn't
Yeah.
I feel like an American crowd might have been more on them for that. But all the moves happen after that. Jacob Fatu's taking out the Usos. And Roman goes to... it's a bloodline match, so there's so many extra bits in here. Roman Superman punches Solo. He's going to set up for a spear, but then Tama Tonga stops that and does the ref bump, which, like you said earlier, pretty unnecessary.
That's precisely 0 point. No one that was not already in this match makes an appearance.
Someone left a comment on my review saying, yeah, but you're only allowed these many legal men in the ring at one time? It's the last 5 minutes of a tag match.
We all know there is decades of precedent. The second the last 5 minutes of a tag match here, anything goes. So the referee's discretion.
Jacob destroys Reigns, then takes out both Usos, and that lets Solo Sikoa hit one spike, second spike, pins Roman 1, 2, 3. Not Jimmy Uso, as I had really passionately said in mine and Luke's predictions. Which means I am 10 English pounds.
You owe Luke 10 English pounds?
Yeah, because he said that Roman was taking the pin. I was like, absolutely not.
Well, this will surprise nobody, was also Team Luke. I very much firmly thought...
Well, I wanted that. I wanted Reigns to take the pin.
Yeah, but you didn't say, did you?
I wanted it to happen.
So well and good saying it after the fact,
I thought it wouldn't happen.
Right, yeah, okay. Yeah, I get you. No, I very much thought this is the moment Roman takes the pin. I thought it would be far more to do with Jacob. Do you remember how it would be at WrestleMania or big events? It would be Solo doing the dirty work and then almost dragging Roman to get the cover. I thought this would very much be Jacob flattens Roman, and rather than going for the pin himself, maybe tags in Solo or facilitates Solo getting the pin. This was far more decisively Solo's. Jacob did some damage that like, what was it, sort of half pounce, half crossbody, whatever, was
it just spinning.
Yeah, he went right through him. It was great. I loved it. But it very much was Solo's pin, which was interesting. An interesting choice. But very decisive.
I bet they're building a singles match between them.
Do you think? I wondered whether or not we'd get to a
well, they have to do that. That's always been the match.
Yeah.
Now we just all want Jacob Fatu versus Roman more now.
It is the problem. And then next year we'll want who is it? Like Zilla Fatu versus Solo instead. I feel like there was something in this where I was like, oh, maybe the Roman J thing is unfinished. Maybe there's a Roman J match somewhere to be had that feels like a big deal. There's point being, there are so many avenues that they can go down, especially now that The Rock is apparently not available for WrestleMania, so certain ideas are out of the way. Maybe he is available for WrestleMania. The good thing is, as opposed to what in the past may have happened, which is booking yourself into a corner, they've got an awful lot of threads that if they wanted to tug out, play with, or pivot to, they kind of could. Which, given that this is the 19th year of the Bloodline saga, I'm impressed that I'm still interested.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Well, and it still gets interesting after the match. Because while the 6-man was fun, it was kind of house showy, I thought, just in terms of tone.
Yeah. I felt that a few times on this show.
Like, it didn't feel like the vicious blood feud that I thought we were going through here, of familial betrayal and stuff. But afterwards, this is like, I guess, the only must-see thing on the entire show. Not that the rest of the show was bad. I thought it was a very easy-to-watch show.
Yeah.
I like the Cody Gunther match, but in terms of like, oh, should I watch Crown Jewel? I'll be like, nah, you can give it a miss.
You can miss the show.
Watch this angle, and if you get time, watch Cody versus Gunther.
That's basic. Yeah, it was a perfectly fine show, but there was nothing to write home about. But there is this one thing that you want to see.
So the New Blood are posing over Roman, and Solo goes to put on the Ula Fala. And Roman, even though he's passed out, suddenly sprint like a zombie, like, tries to grab
the opposite of kryptonite.
Yeah. He wants it.
Yeah.
Which really gets over the power of the necklace. And the New Blood use that as a prompt to beat him down. The crowd by this point are already chanting for Sami and doing ole ole. We all know what we want. And then they're beating up Roman and Jimmy. They're going to put Roman through the table, but Jey stops them. So that's another step there of them becoming more together. So New Blood go to beat up Jey Uso in the ring. They've got the chair around his neck. They're going to Pillmanize him with a hip attack in the corner. Sami Zayn comes down. Well, hey. And he stands in between Jey and Solo. Did you ever once think, oh, Sami might side with Solo here?
I thought they did a good enough job of making me wonder what they would do. Had he done that, I would have been like, that's a bad choice.
That's a really good way of describing.
Do you know what I mean?
Like,
I think it was a bad idea if they'd have done that, but they allowed me to think for a second that they might have just chosen to go down that road. Do you know what I'm saying?
Your anxiety wasn't at the character of Sami Zayn making a choice. It was whether WWE would screw up this moment.
That part. They're very, very that part. And they did enough to make me question it, but I don't think, in that scenario specifically, I think it would have gone over like a lead balloon.
I've said it before. When I watch wrestling shows, I am an idiot.
Right.
Like I just take everything. With
all knowledge and insight goes out.
It's only afterwards that I'm like, oh yeah, I saw this coming. And I was watching it with my partner because it was like on a normal hour.
A reasonable hour.
And I've been mansplaining the entire storyline to her. It's a long storyline.
It's 19 years of it.
And Sammy's in between them both. I'm like, he might side with Solo Sikoa, but I think he's going to go with Jey. And he goes forward to hug Solo. And I went, oh no! Like that. But then it was an exploder suplex.
Yeah.
My partner went, he was obviously going to say
it was never in doubt for me, really. The only thing that was in doubt was whether or not because I mean, I've had, what is it, like the majority of my life with really odd WWE decisions. I was like, oh, don't. You've got to a place where your lowest bar is like good TV. Don't ruin it. Come on. And they didn't. So good for them.
But yeah, Sami turns on Solo. The New Blood beat down Sami, but Jey makes a save. Jimmy makes a save. Roman makes a save. They get rid of all of New Blood apart from Solo Sikoa, who's bang in the middle of the ring. And all of the original Bloodline, Sami included, are in each corner. They've surrounded him. Really good visual. And up until this point, I thought, the match was what it was. Even the post-match angle, well performed, but predictable. This was a really good wrinkle where Roman decides to go for a spear. Sami, at the exact same time, opposite the ring, goes for the haluva kick. Solo gets out the way, and Sami haluva kicks Roman. And that's your intrigue. Jimmy's furious at Sami. Jey's trying to repair this all.
Yeah. The second Roman got into that corner, I was like, this is going badly. The second,
really?
Immediately, I was like, he's kicking him in the face. And
I thought they were all going to hug him, like a best friends thing in AEW.
I mean, they were all going to,
Oh.
I not in a toot my own horn kind of way, just in a, this was very telegraphed and very predictable, and sometimes predictable is good, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, it was like seeing Roman be in the corner opposite Sami. If they were on the same side, I wouldn't have had that question. Because they were on opposite sides, I was like, this is going to go badly. It was a hell of a haluva kick. And it really did. Even though I saw it coming, it did make me go, oh no! Like, I really leant forward, and I thought all of them sold it really well. Like, obviously, Jimmy being the most furious, Jey sort of being a bit conflicted about it, and Sami being like, I don't really care. I came out to save you.
Yeah.
Like, and then bailing while Solo's music was still playing. There was that element of it as well. I thought it was really, really effective. And again, to the point of fast tracking, the last thing you want is for them to go down the road of everything's going to be fine. Let's hug it out. Because they were even chanting "Hug It Out," weren't they, at one point to Sami and I think maybe it was Jimmy. Oh no, they did that on SmackDown for Roman and Jey, and I thought it was great that they didn't do that there either. So the more tension, the more unsteady waters you can present for this, the longer you can stretch it. Because even after all this time, the Bloodline is money.
Yeah,
you know, it intrigues me. The match as it was every Roman Reigns Bloodline match I've ever seen, but as is the way with this storyline, the narrative around it is what hooked me.
Yeah, the wrestling is when I say afterthought, I don't mean like that devalues it, but it's like it's the least interesting thing.
It is the least interesting thing and you can get away with that when elsewhere on the show you have Andrade or you have Cody Gunther. You know, different strokes.
So now what we've got Jey and Sami sort of on one side and Jimmy and Roman on the other, and they're going to have to repair their relationships in the next 4 weeks because presumably we're heading for Solo's New Blood faction versus Roman, Jimmy, Jey, and Sami on the other side. So 4-on-4.
Yeah.
I do like a 5-on-5 war games.
Yeah.
4-on-4 doesn't feel enough. But yeah, I think definitely Sikoa getting that pin on Reigns, particularly after the Bad Blood tag match, is a way to make that happen.
And I was just thinking, is there a way to make it a 5-on-5? But I don't know who the fifth. I know who the fifth would be on the New Bloodline side, but I don't know who the fifth would be for the other guys. You know, and I think it would be unnecessary overcomplication for what seems to me like a really well plotted and well structured narrative.
Well, someone, this isn't my idea. Someone suggested on the Raw review that Kevin Owens joins Sikoa's team.
Oh, I've got The Rock.
Oh, I was going to say, who's the other one? Talatonga. Who's Hikuleo.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 different people who could be on the bad side. But then I guess if you have Cody on the good guy's side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'd probably end up being 4-on-4. You don't want to add too many bits.
And I don't want to keep Cody away from defending his belt for 2 pay-per-views in a row, personally.
Yeah, good point.
3 pay-per-views in a row because he was in the tag match with Roman. So, like, you know.
Let's see what everyone thinks on the chat gables. WrestleTalk.com/support. Get them in there. The Black Prince says, I don't hate the idea of once a year crowning a champion of champions and pitting the 4 world champions against each other. What I hate is how ugly the title belt is. Stupid Shrek-looking belt. Otherwise, Crown Jewel was a very enjoyable, if unimportant, show. Shrek-looking belt?
Because it's green. I think that's the best they've got.
Is it green?
Also, I'm coming to the defense of Shrek. We won't have any Shrek slander in this house.
I don't like Shrek.
Wow.
Hot take. I saw someone compare Liv Morgan wearing the giant belt
just a head
with Bret Hart and the steel plate that he wore on the Goldberg angle.
Yeah, that is very funny. That is good.
Mike says, the women's championship booking was truly terrible. A cavalcade of interference. Only around 8 minutes long, about 1/3 of the time of the men's match, leaving no time for Liv and Nia to do much of anything. It's like they didn't even want to try.
I disagree with that overall. I think I can see where you're coming from, and I know what you mean about cavalcade of interference. And obviously, when you're comparing these two things, and you're comparing, we'll talk about it when we get to the women's match, but you're comparing the location as well and what that goes into it. But it made sense narratively for what's going on for both Nia and Liv. It didn't really bother me that much.
I feel with Liv and Nia, that is a match that is like the situation has made it. It's the Crown
heel
Jewel
versus
champion.
heel.
Whereas Cody and Gunther, they have a heel versus face dynamic. They've got history. So that all works really well for that. But Liv and Nia didn't have that. So it's heel versus heel.
Yeah.
So they were like, and
how do
right
we add
now,
an intrigue into this?
They're not the best characters.
Yeah.
Like Nia's fun, but Liv is really weak. So I think they consciously looked at this, thought, oh, well, we're kind of booked into a corner here. Let's get it over quickly and have loads of interference.
Yeah. And look, all of that is a problem of their own making. And I think it is perfectly valid and actually fair enough that you point out, well, how can you book your men's world champions to be to the point where it's that strong, as you say, and your women's world champions to the opposite point? I think that's perfectly fair and something to have a conversation about. But when you come to, in the moment with the piece of paper in your hand, booking a match like this, I think they went down the right road in terms of keeping an intrigue on Liv's character and how she wins things, keeping an intrigue on Nia and Tiffy's relationship, what that briefcase represents for them. Nia being this dominant, powerhouse of a champion, Liv being this. She cries every time she wins, in spite of never actually succeeding to win on her own merit, kind of thing, which is an interesting character dynamic. I think
that's her.
It is her, but I'm giving her the grace to include it in her character.
She's occasionally a terrible heel, because she's so damn likable.
Yeah, this is it.
Rafael Garcia, Erdem Ozcan before then. Is it just me, or is Michael Cole saying, what the hell is Chelsea wearing? In a country where women aren't allowed to wear what they want is a bit distasteful. Much love, guys. I think that's okay in the moment. She was wearing sort of half a wedding dress.
I don't like it, but not because of the reason that Erdem has pointed out. I don't really like it because it gets a bit much on the commentary. It reminds me of heel Michael Cole back in the day, rather than... I know that in this context, she's the annoying heel and he's supposed to channel all of us and make us feel like we shouldn't like Chelsea Green or whatever. But and anytime, do you remember when he would go on about Miz being a weirdo or do it for us weirdos, and then he would call someone else. Oh, he would call the Nikki Cross a weirdo, and it just, I don't need that.
Well, that's Vince talking through Cole.
This
that's
was
Vince with a Cole puppet.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
Yeah.
So that's what gets on my nerves more. But interestingly, we were having a conversation upstairs about this idea of what the women are supposed to wear in Saudi, but it's still kind of...
Still very sexy to put everyone in skin-tight outfits.
And this is kind of what I'm researching for my master's degree dissertation, so we'll talk about it. It's gender expression in pro wrestling. But yeah.
Rafael Garcia says, love Jade and Bianca, but someone else should have won. I get why Seth won because of the four-way on Monday, but it should have been Reed. And personally, I'm over the ref bump spot in every Roman match. Technically, it's 4 out of 7, which is 57%, but I'd curve it to 70%. I agree with all those points.
Yeah, I do too, actually.
And that part of me also thinks, let's have LA Knight drop the belt as well.
Yes, we'll talk about that when we get to that match. Yeah, completely.
Demon Arc 117 finally for now. For me, every match that actually happened can be described as fun match, bland finish. This is me now talking. I much prefer that, though, to fun match. What the hell were they thinking for the finish?
Yes, completely.
Which was about 5 years pre-Triple H.
20 years.
This is back to Demon Arc. Cody versus Gunther was the only one which the finish was at least narratively boring. Huh? I thought the Cody Gunther finish was excellent.
I've heard other podcasters say they thought... Why am I not naming them? I heard Going in Raw also complain about the finish to this match, and I disagree entirely. Yeah. I thought this was a really good finish.
I cannot wait for the Saudi deal to end. Those Blood Money House shows mean little.
That part is true. But once it ends, I'm sure they'll sign a new one.
Yeah, I don't think they're ending. Well, thank you very much for those. Keep getting them in to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one over $5 before the end of the show. And also, please go over to our Movember page at Just Giving. There's a link in the video description below. Doing a little, if you haven't seen already.
Yeah, when are you starting Movember? Are you gonna grow anything? Gonna grow a mustache?
Can you genuinely not see it?
Oh, I thought that was your lunch.
No.
I thought you hadn't just... That's a mistake.
What do you think I had for lunch?
I don't know, but it was dark. Maybe it was a shadow. I don't...
It's thick.
It's lovely. Well done. You're trying your best.
We had a whole well-thought-out storyline where we teased it for a whole week, and then the moustache break attacked me, and me and Luke were just like, please don't let any awful news happen. Because we'd have to do like the moustache reveal on the same show that someone dies. Yeah, it's always a risk when you plan things ahead for news episodes. And I did my Friday thing, revealed that, it was just fun news, Cody and Roman heat, whatever. Yeah, that's fine. And then 3 people lost their jobs.
Yeah, bad times.
Friday night.
Yeah.
And Luke, who hasn't yet revealed the moustache on air, but shaved it on Friday, had to do... The breaking news video.
Yeah.
He's got a moustache. So not only is it a bit awkward doing that, but also kind of does undermine our big reveal of Luke having a moustache on Wednesday.
Which is, to be clear, for a very serious cause as well. A very good cause. We support November.
Well, I just do it out of the goodness of my heart.
Yeah, no, of course you do.
Don't praise me too much.
Yeah. Okay, I won't. Then. No, I bet you told me not to, so I've stopped. What's this? You conducting? I've been training for this. That's comedy.
Well, that's just the Just Giving page. And if you send in your if you send in your donation, proof of your donation, and a picture of you also participating in Movember to support at WrestleTalk.com, we will do your own moustache break on the WrestleTalk News.
Lovely.
Sexy. Right, let's get on with the rest of the show. Now, most of the international shows do have an element of tourist board too.
They do.
Like, oh, look how beautiful Scotland is.
Wow,
Ooh,
go to Perth.
Eiffel Tower. I found it, maybe, I don't know if it's because it was more excessive on this show or because it's got the heritage of this was the first one and it's morally complex. I felt like they did it a lot.
Yes, they certainly did. What's interesting is you are right, and I think about this every time I watch it. I'm like, oh, they just do these now, and I'm sure it's part of the deal.
Yeah,
you know, and that's sort of whatever. But there is some, maybe it's just Western ideas. We don't necessarily look at the Middle East in the same way that we look at like a Paris or whatever. Where if they're showing us the Eiffel Tower and they're showing us Leon, and they're like, this is our setting. It feels like our setting for tonight's show versus this, which is naked tourism board advertising. Do you know what I mean?
Well, when you have facts like 7.5 million people live in Riyadh, it's the third most populous city in the Middle East. Like,
it's the ad read stuff where they've given them text and they're not allowed to make it in their own tone of voice. Yeah. It's the Saudi thing, as you say, morally complex is a very polite way of putting it, but it's very noticeable on these shows in comparison to the others.
I've got a line I wrote, which I thought you might like.
Okay.
The opening video package was part Saudi Arabian tourist commercial, part rejected Black Adam trailer.
Yeah, I can see that with the whole Google Earth thing.
The same text.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Occasionally a shot of a tiger.
Yeah, very weird, very weird. And The Rock was there. Like,
yeah.
No, he wasn't.
That was the last pay-per-view. Kevin Owens, when he's arriving backstage, he's trash-talking the camera, but you can't hear him. And you can clearly see him mouth, oh, yeah, you can't hear me again, blah, blah, blah. I thought that was all really well done. The arena itself, I thought it didn't look that big compared to other international PLEs.
Yeah.
I looked at the capacity, and I found two different things. It says it's 22,000 capacity, but it is multi-purpose. For last year's Crown Jewel in the same venue, it was 13,000.
Yeah.
In comparison to like Berlin and Lille, was it Lille?
Leon.
They're more like 17 to 20,000. So a bit of a difference.
It's much smaller in comparison, especially like to the shows in Jeddah that they've done in Saudi, where that does feel like a much bigger crowd. This one is much smaller.
We've already spoken about the opener, and after that we got... God, there's loads of notes. The Women's Tag Team Championship match, which going into this, I was, it wasn't even meant to be on the show. This is on there because Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez can't happen because Ripley's picked up another injury. So they put together this 4-way tag match, which has just been such a nothing division for so long.
It has.
I really enjoyed this match.
So it's really interesting going from watching the show with an analytical perspective every single week to watching it as a fan again for the past couple of months, where I'll get up in the morning on a Tuesday and watch a bit of Raw before I go to class, or on a Saturday when I've not got anything on in the morning, I'll watch SmackDown through and not take notes and just have it on.
And AEW.
Oh, yeah. That's the one. I just have it on a class on a Thursday. That's like but the women's tag division in particular has been one where I've been like, oh, you're doing effort on this. I'm quite enjoying this. I don't know whether or not if I were watching it more analytically, whether or not I would be a little bit more cynical about it, a little bit more cold on it. Something about the insertion of Lash and Jakara, I'm like, oh, lovely. New blood, energy, tag teams. This is great. Like, it turns out what you need for a healthy tag team division is tag teams who work together consistently and have chemistry with each other.
But then they got squashed on SmackDown.
We say they got squashed.
Yeah, it wasn't impressive. And then they're right back in the same spot, interfering with the damage control stuff.
Yeah, this is true. I think there's something about a consistency, though. Like, a consistency that I have gone like, oh, they're doing something, rather than it just being... Which two women are available this week?
Yeah.
There's like, this is a tag team, this is a tag team, this is a tag team, this is tag team.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
And I really like watching Damage Control wrestle. I think Io Sky is like how Asuka used to be just one of the best wrestlers in the world, period. I feel like Io Sky is also that. So it's just always great to see her just whip people with her body.
Yeah.
The way she does that. So what I liked about this match, it was a pretty normal match up until a point. And the point was Chelsea Green going for a dive outside off the top rope. She looks back at everyone. She's like, oh, it's quite high. She goes down a rung. Oh, it's still quite high. She goes down onto the apron, turns to face them, and then just ends up doing a little hop into Piper Niven's arms.
Yeah.
It was so funny. But then because there's so many different styles of character in this match, you then have Damage Control both doing their top rope moves outside. I think, was it Jakara did a huge leap off Jackson's Legend's shoulders outside. And the crowd just start going, this is awesome. And then like it goes in the ring and Jade hits a Jaded on Chelsea Green. I was like, oh, well, at least I got those 30 seconds of really good fun.
Yeah.
But the pin got broken up and it went on for like another 3-4 minutes. And it was really, really exciting stuff.
What I'm not saying is that this is setting the world on fire. What I'm not saying is that this is a division fixed or an electricity or match of the year candidate. What I am saying is this was fun to watch on television. And just like, I think I'm maybe it's because of the NXT connection, but I'm a big fan of Jakara and Legend. I think they're great together. I think the Lash Legend in particular is someone who I would put money on for the future.
Oh yeah,
I think she's got an incredible look. She's got an incredible vibe about her. They work really well together. The combination we saw from, and I think Chelsea and Piper have great chemistry as well.
Yeah.
And then Jade and Bianca have a great set of
muscles.
Yeah, well, quite great set of muscles, but also a great set of double team moves. And then Io Sky and Kairi Sane plot twist are good wrestlers. It's a whole thing about seeing teams work together and working together to tell a good story and have character beats in there and tell a good story within the match in terms of who's going to get it. Personally speaking, I actually would have liked Metaphor to win the belts and take the belts to NXT and the belts be, rather than the champions going to various different shows, it be like the championships are currently on NXT. Come get us if you want them. Oh, we're a Raw team. We've just won them. Now the belts are on Raw. Ask Adam Pearce if you can come and challenge for them. There needs to be a consistency and a logic behind the division. And maybe because there's only been crumbs, and it crumbs at best with this division over the past couple of years, little building blocks felt like a massive leap forward. It's all a matter of perspective, but quite liked it.
I think you saying Jakara and Legend being your preferred winners there. My preferred winners were Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. Just from a my dream fantasy booking would be that, I don't know, Kairi Sane gets knocked out. Chelsea Green is also knocked out and falls on top of her.
Right.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
But funny stuff. But then even if that didn't happen, I would have picked Damage Control because they've looked so great on TV in the last few weeks. The larger point being, the people who retain the championships are the least interesting part of this division.
Yes. I think everyone is waiting for the moment that they clash. And I think there is something in that. And I see the comedy enjoyment in the Chelsea falling over and winning the belts. That somewhat devalues the belts even further for me.
Oh, yeah.
So at the very least, keeping them on these people who are quite clearly powerhouses and one of the best women's wrestlers of all time in Bianca and a walking statue in Jade, who gets better by being near Bianca kind of thing. It makes a lot more sense for me, but I think we are all waiting for them to break up, and I think that won't help the division in the long run either.
I'm over them being champions personally, and it's quite a stale division watching it on weekly TV.
Yeah,
so I wasn't thrilled about this. I thought the whole point of a 4-way was so they didn't have to get pinned. I'll just quickly before we move on your point about Lash Legend being one for the future. I think they clearly put that over here because there were multiple who's the bigger badass spots with Cargill.
Yeah,
and I've got to be honest. I feel like Legend came off way better than Cargill.
She certainly did. I completely agree with you. Yeah, she absolutely did.
I can't believe I'm saying that.
No, and it didn't. I didn't anticipate that going in. But there was a moment I think where Lash tags Jade so that she's the legal and Jade's now out of the match, and Jey did not take kindly to it. And watching them get in each other's faces was very much like book that. I'll watch that.
They had a yay boo spot where Cargill will go with these forearms. Forearms, they are what they are.
Yeah.
Can't really get sound from it. Legend would just slap her across the chest. It was great.
It is great.
But please drop the belts soon. Seth Rollins then took on Bronson Reed. This was a great match. Really enjoyed this match.
Mm-hmm.
But on Monday, Seth was taken to a local medical facility because he re-aggravated his back injury after being chucked off the back of a lorry by Bronson Reed.
Mm-hmm.
Did Seth once sell his back in this match?
Yeah.
I thought that was the reason for him to lose this match.
Yeah.
So then they can do a rematch and Seth wins that one when he's fully healed. Rubber match. Hopefully Bronson goes over. Not Seth wins this one.
Corey Graves, to his immense credit as a commentator, is always looking for an explanation of things that don't make one lick of sense. And after putting over the power and the pain of the tsunami, with all of this you've just said, and the fact that he's already got bruises on his back from them battling on the entranceway, basically said like adrenaline is a wonder drug because Seth was able to kick out. He was looking for every opportunity to give Seth an out for still competing. And this match went a lot longer than I think it should have, given what you've just highlighted. The fact that they started, I think it should have been a brawl, and then they get in the ring, and the match such that it is kind of is less important. And personally, I would have had Reed go over. But yeah, that is a whole. I enjoyed it. Again, It was a good match for television and fun watching on the television purposes. This is not me denigrating anyone in the match or even the match itself. It just is from a narrative continuation perspective, kind of wacky.
Was really fun though. The match after the brawl, before the bell rang, they get in the ring, bell rings, and immediately Reed hits a tsunami. Goes for a second one, Seth dodges it, he hits a stomp. So within the first 30 seconds of the proper match, we've had both guys' finishes.
Yeah.
They go back and forth, they're just hitting each other with everything. They spill outside, Bronson's going to use the steel steps. Seth dodges him, stomps him onto it. Looks like it busted open on Bronson the hard way because like blood's trickling down his head off that. Rolls him in the ring, hits a second stomp, then climbs up to the top rope, and then hits a super stomp. And that's how Seth beats Bronson Reed clean in the middle of the ring. That's factually, description, visually of what happened. The only sort of glimmer of hope here is that when Seth got out the ring, Bronson was right back up on his feet.
Certainly was.
And it was like, oh my God, what do you have to do to stop this guy? And Seth looks a bit scared as he's backing up the ramp. Seth is going to have a 4-way number one container ship match. Did you hear about number one container ship?
No.
On Lillian Garcia's first night back in.
Yes. She said container.
Number one containers, right?
Love that. Okay, that's forever now, isn't it?
It is forever.
Yeah.
So Seth's in that 4-way to decide the number one container ship. I think Reed takes him out. That facilitates a rematch. This feud doesn't feel done for me. But I'm a bit frustrated that they went with putting Seth over. Particularly because Bronson lost the Strowman match.
Yeah, I mean, he got right back up and is standing there with blood pouring down from him, and he looks like an absolute kaiju. Yeah. And there is something about that looks strong in defeat kind of thing. I think Bronson plays his role really, really well. Where he's like, you knocked me down, but I'm still standing. And then Seth I think he goes off the air being like, bloody hell, like what are you doing here? What's wrong with you? Stay down, kind of thing. There's a good. I think they could end it if they wanted to, or they could continue it if they wanted to. I think they've created a scenario where both can be true, and they'll see how they feel tomorrow night.
I really hope they do continue it, because that would mean that Bronson's last 2 big programs, he's lost both of them.
Do you see Bronson Reed being a champion? Like IC champion, world champion?
Oh, yeah, I think...
You absolutely do?
Yeah, well, who knows now, because title reigns are so long. But definitely in the mix of the guys.
Because the only reason I ask is because if you think yes, then I agree he needs to have some wins and he needs to get that momentum such that it is back. If you think, no, I don't see him being a world champion, he, as the person you come up against, is valuable, and actually the losses don't hurt him that badly if he looks strong in defeat, kind of thing.
Okay, so sort of misunderstood your question then. I answered it in like, do you think WWE will make him a champion?
Yeah.
Do I think he can become a really good IC champion?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But you need to give him the wins to get there.
Right. Yeah, completely. But if you don't, if you WWE are like, we don't have that for him, but we think he's a really valuable player in this context, then I don't think he needs to get his win against Seth back. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
After that, we had Nia Jax versus Liv Morgan. This was our first Crown Jewel Gaudy Belt Championship match, which means we get one of the worst AR graphics I have seen in years. Bunch of camels pulling the belt along.
I hate AR. It's the worst. It's not the one, is it?
We kind of covered this in the chats earlier. It's a heel versus heel match. Jackson, Liv Morgan, they're not working super smoothly together. Jax is sort of the dominating monster, but then also at times the baby face. It was psychologically off. I think they knew that going in. So that's why, like 4 or 5 minutes into this match, Tiffany Stratton runs down to cash in her briefcase. Jax says, no, don't do that, which is a bit annoying because I feel like this is becoming repetitive now.
Yes.
Nia did say cash in on Liv. So why would she then tell her no at this moment? But then that let Raquel Rodriguez and Dominic Mysterio come in for Liv. Distractions. Liv hits the Oblivion to win.
Yeah. I think so there was a really some nice bits here from Nia. I think Nia, I've said a few times, I think Nia's doing a really good job in this second run. I think she had a big Simone drop fairly early on that looked fantastic, and the way she carries herself these days is so light years away from the way it used to be. The Tiffy stuff is getting repetitive. I completely agree. If we'd not seen it that much, it feels like every time Nia has a max, Tiffy's music is going to hit halfway through. You can always set your watch to it. I think had it not happened that frequently, this would have been a really interesting opportunity because you have 2 champions in there at once. Yeah. What's she going to do? The fact that she's come out and done a whole bunch sort of dilutes that kind of intrigue a little bit. There was a big "Let's Go Morgan" chant halfway through, which reminded me of the heel dynamic, and we spoke a lot in this year about like the situational babyface. Oh, we're in Australia, that means that Rhea Ripley is a babyface now, or whatever. She hadn't turned at that point officially. Or we're in where else have they been? Drew McIntyre's situational babyface because we're in Scotland, kind of thing. This was not that, but the fact that there was a big "Let's Go Morgan" chant kind of put more credence or explanation on why she got so emotional, I think. It's a big deal when you're given a big thumbs up from your boss to say you are the first person to win this champion versus champion thing, even if it is a screwy finish and like Trips is in there giving her a little cuddle and all that stuff. So no wonder you get a bit emotional. But it was a weird dynamic the whole way through. And I think that's where criticisms of the overbookedness of it all are perfectly valid. As it happens, I think the overall theme of this show for me is like, yeah, it was a crown jewel. Like, I'm not that mad at it. If it was this like a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania, I'd be fuming. But and that's maybe a criticism of me as a critic. Do you know what I mean? To be like, I've lowered my expectations, so I'm allowing more things through than maybe in another scenario I would. But yeah, sort of fine.
Kevin Owens and Randy Orton didn't end up happening because
no, did not.
They hate each other too much. KO, in his sort of great psychological heel work, came out wearing a Cowboy Bob Orton t-shirt, who was, of course, Randy's dad. Randy makes his entrance, and KO just hits him with a chair before the bell. And I thought, okay, is this going to be similar to Bronson versus Seth, where they beat each other up and then the bell rings? No, because KO stunned a referee.
Yeah,
I know we get ref bumps all the time, but we don't get intentional ref violence a lot these days.
There's something I have on a note like that in a second. But yes, to your point.
So when KO did that, I was like, oh, it woke me up a bit. And then, that was a signal for loads of officials to run down. I think Jamie Noble took a bump.
Yeah.
Was it Davari took a bump
big
as
shoulder
well?
to the ring post.
Yeah.
Pretty big shoulder to the ring post as well.
Well, they don't get to do
this is it.
spots these days.
Yeah.
And the big thing is the brand daddies are out there, Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, and I don't think he really knew who was stopping him. But Randy must have just felt a hand on his shoulder, and he RKO's Adam Pearce.
Yeah.
Raw General Manager Adam Pearce.
And
felt
that,
big.
It did. It felt kind of transgressive because we don't see... We had these GMs, or we've certainly had Adam Pearce be the official for a while, and he doesn't get involved physically that much. You know, he's constantly involved. He's always coming out there and being like, I'm telling you off, but he's never really involved in terms of taking moves. So to see an RKO on one of the GMs, I was like, oh, that, you know, even to my jaded eye, felt like, goodness me, we used to see stunners on Vince McMahon all the time. We don't see that anymore, kind of deal. So yeah, I was like, oh, Randy, what have you done there, mate? What are the repercussions going to be for you?
Yeah, it's a testament to how Levesque has made everything feel more again. A little spot like that we used to see all the time feels really significant. If I was to put on my fantasy booking lens, I would say this is building to a Team Pearce versus Team Aldis match at Survivor Series. Not in more games, just a classic elimination.
Because, well, I mean, you've got in that Pearce is cross. If there is no repercussions to Randy Orton, Adam Pearce is going to be very cross about it.
Pearce has been on the phone a lot to Aldis, saying like, why the Bloodline over here? Like, we didn't, you can't control your show. And now Randy has done that. So
it's not a bad shout. And as long as it's not the main event and it's not like they're all coming, it would be far more. It'd be far better than just like, oh, last week I was on SmackDown and now I'm on Raw and I'm wearing a red T-shirt and now I would die for this brand. Yeah. Like that's better. Yeah. That's a better way of doing it.
They brawl into the crowd though, and Kevin Owens ends up hitting a flying elbow off this raised platform area onto Randy through some tables. And yeah, that was the end of the thing. Like people going, oh my God. And then it cuts to Cardi B ringing up Bianca Belair. I thought, are we gonna come back to the carnage?
We so rarely have an ad break in the middle of a match during a pay-per-view.
And yeah, we come back and they're like, well, okay, next match then.
Yeah. It was odd. It was very odd. What did you think of it? Did you hate it? Did you like it?
What, the way it just stopped? Yeah. No, I think it was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay too. It's open now. There's more to be pulled out because they haven't given us what we were advertised.
I hope that Owens does get a win over Orton. I hope this is just a way to elongate the feud rather than get past having to pin Orton.
Yeah.
Because I would like Owens to pin Orton to build him for a big Cody match. But there's part of me that's like, they have made Randy lose a few times this year. Just like the... who did we talk about who should have got pinned earlier?
Bronson Reed?
Yeah, Seth and Bronson Reed. Like, not all the big guys can lose all the time to help our favourites.
Yeah.
I'm worried that Owens will just have to use his character work rather than a win-loss record to go against Cody.
Yeah, interesting.
We got the three-way next, which was the second shortest match on the show, but I think it fitted in about as many spots as the longest.
It certainly did.
It was Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade versus LA Knight for the United States Championship. And the story was kind of LA Knight's a third wheel here. Andrade and Hayes hate each other. They just start like going at each other right away. And LA Knight is content to sit back and watch this, but then they both beat him up. And then it's just like so many innovative three-way spots all the time. All three guys are always working with each other. There's no bits where anyone rolls out to the side for too long. The bit that blew my mind the most was quite early on. Hayes is in the ring, LA Knight's outside. Andrade just hops up to the top rope. He's looking at Hayes in the ring, and he just hits a moonsault behind him on LA Knight. The trust, to not even look behind you. I thought that was really something.
Because that has the effect on you, the audience member, of being like, you're not going the right way. Like, it was a weird... We've seen so much. Someone's on the top rope. That person's there. He's going to do some form of flip. But you're going the wrong way. It was very, like, shocking. Yeah. I'm a bit of an Andrade mark at this point. I've always thought he's brilliant. But he needs to be used in the right way. And it turns out the right way is just making him wrestle Carmelo Hayes all the time. Because... But like, there's his elbow sends me every single time he uses it. He's got such confidence and awareness. He's like I love a luchador, but I also love someone who's built like a brick house, and he's both of them at the same time. So I think Andrade's currently like one of my favorites. I'm a big fan, and I would have personally given him the win here, but that was not to be.
Well, yeah, because LA Knight has beaten both these guys. It feels like he is quite a level up from them, unfortunately. But the finish was spectacular. Hayes, what was he trying to do on Andrade? Some sort of the what there?
Nothing but net. Oh, he got that, didn't he?
It was a thing, but somehow LA Knight gets in the middle of them and hits the blunt force trauma
on both
to win.
Yeah,
I was like, how did you get in there at that point?
It was quite impressive. There was a lot of trust, ring awareness, deftness, which wasn't throughout the match. I mean, he did have a big slip, didn't he, LA?
Oh, did he?
Well, he went to jump up to the top and slipped off and nutsed himself on the ropes. But it's very humid, so there's a lot of sweat on those ropes. So don't worry about
feel on the ropes.
Corey Graves one more time come in and to save the day. Absolutely love it. Yeah. What was the other? The elbow that turned into a cutter on LA Knight that landed on Andrade or whatever. That whole sequence popped me a lot. There's a lot in this. They packed an awful lot into this match, didn't they?
But kind of like the women's tag team division, I feel like Knight was the person I wanted least to win.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And the story of Andrade pinning Hayes or Hayes pinning Andrade, considering their series they've had together.
Yeah.
And they win a belt for that.
Yeah.
And Knight didn't get pinned for that. I thought would have been such a better story and would have elevated one of those guys.
And especially because Knight specifically ruined the final match in their series. And actually, I thought that was a massive cop-out. It made me quite cross. So I thought this was a way to get us to a title match that would put the belt on one of them. Yeah. And I think it's a missed opportunity. Not that I think LA Knight doesn't deserve to hold a belt, but I think a title change now and again is a good thing, as we saw on SmackDown.
The main event was Gunther versus Cody Rhodes. I said that I've never really enjoyed bragging rights stories, particularly the one you described earlier. I've got a red shirt now. I will die for Raw that I was drafted to a week ago. But this was a bragging rights story done well.
It really was.
Here's Gunther. I'm the best champion. My belt means the most. And Cody's like, I'm the best champion. My belt means the most. But what I think they were really saying was Cody's got this vision of what pro wrestling is. It's about inspiring people. It's about sports entertainment. And Gunther is, no, it's about being the best for you. And it's breaking people down in the ring. Not for anyone out there. It's more like focused version of it and not as flashy. And it's just seeing those two, not a styles clash, but a philosophy clash in the ring, and they executed it perfectly.
Yeah, completely. I think the idea of what was it they said on commentary as much of like he does the John Cena trip where he goes out and does all the appearances, and Gunther's version is, well, I'm just going to go study tapes and train.
Yeah,
like both of those things, you can make a solid argument are the correct way to do it. So that idea of having them come up against each other, it did not feel big time, did it? Like the idea that you've got your two top champions, and they did the package beforehand where they were talking about Triple H on the kickoff show, and it was really helpful that they replayed it because nobody watched it. Saying something along the lines of like, "What if Backlund had faced Bockwinkel, and what if I love that they specifically said in his prime Ric Flair faced Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania Tour of 2009 notwithstanding, like what would that have looked like?" It's just because he said specifically
an important qualifier.
Yeah, who was the first one? Oh, it was Bruno versus Harley Race, and Triple H for all of the criticisms about him that are valid and all of the praise about him that is also valid. He loves wrestling and he loves the lineage and he loves that those are exactly the people he would point to. So while I don't like a bragging rights and I don't necessarily need to see champion versus champion, when you've got a Gunther and a Cody and he's explaining it like that, and then they come out and they have their entrances the way they do and they stand opposite each other and it looks like two massive stars, two world champions. I'm like, oh, you have built this in such a way that makes me feel present and ready for it. So yeah, I thought everything up until even the bell ringing was already making it feel like a main event.
Oh, especially that camel graphic.
Oh, you love a camel graphic. Yeah. You should be used forever.
And it's
different
also...
animals for each location. Mooses in Canada. I
Yeah,
want dragging
yeah.
the War Games cages behind them.
But it's also a feud that's been sort of foreshadowed for years in those Royal Rumble spots.
Yeah. They've got history.
So it starts off as like wrestling. There's a few arm holds, then there's a side headlock spot, and it's just showing how evenly matched they are. But then Cody goes to do his dad's punches and a bit of the bionic elbow. Gunther, chop. Oh, take that, sports entertainment.
Do you see the
welts?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the same outside, like Cody dives outside, chop, body slam. What is a more throwback wrestling move than body slam?
Yeah.
The crowd then started to get into themselves more than the match.
They certainly did.
Which was annoying because I thought this was actually a really solid, very good main event for WWE. But yeah, we got a Mexican wave here. They were just doing chants that weren't really connected to anything.
Yeah,
like
it's
Olay.
useful to have examples of that when we're talking about like other crowds, like the French crowd that sort of bought into it and made the match feel big, and other crowds like Bash at Berlin, even London crowds tend to sing along, and it sounds like they're going into business for themselves. This, I think, was more of a clear example of what that actually looks like.
But it's sort of Cody's worked over for a period. Gunther will cut him off with, sleepers mostly, but like really exciting sleepers.
Yeah, well, because they built a sleeper.
Yeah, they built it up. But Gunther sort of went for the sleeper one too many times. Gunther had scouted him by that point. Reverses into a crossroads. You get kickouts of power bombs. A second crossroads, of course. There's so many crossroads all the time. But the finish wasn't a finisher at all.
Nope.
It was Cody going for a super cutter. The way he hopped up there was Jackie Chan levels of action. Just ran up the wall, and he leaps back for that Cody cutter. Gunther catches him in a sleeper, and I was like, that's the finish. But then Cody rolls over the top of him into a pin, and 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Really smart.
I thought really smart as well. Why did you think really smart? Really
smart because I think there's a argument that Cody suckered in Gunther, because Gunther's been saying, I'm gonna choke you out. I'm gonna put the sleeper on you. Cody's like, okay, I'm gonna give him the most tempting sleeper opportunity because I know I'm gonna roll it back into a pin, and that's how I'll beat him.
Interesting.
So smart from a strategic perspective, but also smart from a wrestling booking perspective, because that's one of those results that was in that moment on that night.
Yes.
And the way Gunther shakes Cody's hand afterwards, it's like, you got me this time, but next time I'm going to beat you.
Yeah. I felt that too. Specifically, I was glad the camera caught Gunther slapping the mat in fury afterwards. He was like properly like mad about the fact that he'd fallen for it or lost in that way. Because I don't know that I saw it as strategic. I'm going to sucker you into giving me a sleeper and doing it. I saw it more as the resourcefulness of, I'm in this position again. I know what I can do. And there was I think one of the commentators pointed out a similarity between the Bret Hart Roddy Piper finish from years ago,
Mania 7,
and that tied in nicely with Goldberg. With Gunther.
With Gold, bit of a Freudian blowjob there with Goldberg.
It was Gunther digging at Bret Hart by invoking Goldberg. Yeah. That's where Goldberg's in my head.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Okay, that's a fun.
So just the idea of Cody using a Bret Hart finish in that match is kind of a nice little touch. But it was in going in Raw, their argument to refer to someone else on our chats who said that they didn't like the finish. The idea that Gunther should be able to kick out of that or just simply release the sleeper is what they were sort of saying. Whereas for me, it's that thing of you've got the sleeper locked in, and then you're folded over and you've got Cody Rhodes' entire body weight on you. You can't really get your arms out to kick out, let alone release the sleeper. There was something about that on the night, the 3 finish, Cody's just instinct. And if the idea is these are our 2 top dogs, these are our 2 top champions, then it shouldn't come down to I am better than you at wrestling. It should come down to I was the one who was able to maneuver you for 3 seconds here. And it did, and it was really effective. And the handshake at the end looked really good. I don't think Gunther leaves this looking like a weak champion, but you could use that in a story if you wanted to. I thought it was great. Really liked it.
And I get why Cody won. And, to be honest, he should win. He's the face of the company and all that stuff. But it was after a night of all the other people I guess Solo Sikoa got the pin on Roman Reigns. That is absolutely the right booking decision to build the next match. But everything else, from the women's tag belts, LA Knight, Bronson Reed, and Gunther, I'm like, all the people. I wish one of them out of all those people would have won. Like if Gunther won this match, I'd be like, oh my god, this pay-per-view was a whole 10-15% better than what I've rated it as.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Afterwards, Triple H came down to hand the belt to Cody, which somehow looked bigger than Liv's.
Yeah.
And then, they all sort of celebrate there with Liv. Liv comes down as well. I gave it 70-something%, I think. So it's sort of 3.5 out of 5
I
show.
think that's pretty accurate. I think it was, like we said right at the off, it was one of those shows where it was good. I'm not going to whinge about it. There was nothing to say was bad, but I also wouldn't tell you to rush out and watch it.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I don't think we've got the capability to do a fan vote on the show today. So let's go through the remaining chat gables. Last call for those, WrestleTalk.com/support. Rafael Garcia says, love Jada Bianca. Okay. Real Double J says, Dan, I've offered the lads money to review Megalopolis. That is how you say it.
Megalopolis, yeah.
How much do I need to offer for you to do a video pod discussing theatre tiffs like they're wrestling black? More wrestling fans need to know how much Patti LuPone hates Andrew Lloyd Webber.
So not to go too deep, but Patti LuPone was in the original Sunset Boulevard, and then when they moved it over to Broadway, Andrew Lloyd Webber shafted her out of the way and put Glenn Close in instead. And Patti LuPone had a contract where she was supposed to be doing it, so she sort of like sued him, and she used the settlement to build a pool in her house, which she calls the Andrew Lloyd Webber Memorial Pool, which is hilarious. But this is why Celebrity Deathmatch needs to exist. Do you know what I mean? That was a great little show back in the day.
Oh god, I haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
Well, me and Luke are doing some Spider-Man 3 stuff next week.
Oh, hello.
So it's not Megalopolis, but if you want to hear us talk about crushingly disappointing movies. Mike says, so LA Knight beats Andrade in a singles, Melo in a singles, ruins their best of 7 series, and beats them in a triple threat. Who does this guy think he is? John Cena? No, he thinks he's the Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Well, he's got all 3 of them in one. You put them all together, you get LA Knight.
Yeah,
it's a shame, and I think you need to be careful to not have him be that way.
Quoth the Raven 79 says, Gunther, you're the ring general. Just let go of the hold. It's not like you don't spam the sleeper hold a million times more. Didn't like it with Brett and Piper, and I didn't like it here. Dan without blonde tips. Is this evil, Dan? Hope school is going well for you.
Thank you very much. It's going brilliantly. Thank you. I am so tired. And I disagree with you.
That's the only reason Dan came back. He was like, I think I've heard that.
I've heard Quoth the Raven didn't really love that finish.
The Raven didn't like it.
I've got to leap to Cody's defense once again.
Will Campbell says, welcome back, Dan. Really enjoyed the women's tag, and that spot where Lash hoiked up Io, then tossed her to Jakara, who hit a sit-out powerbomb, was choice. Also, the triple threat was blink and you miss it cool, and the main event was great with a smart finish.
Yeah, that spot where Lash just yoinking Io in the air was fantastic.
And finally, for now, Ten Ruzza in a Tony Schiavone voice. It's done!
I tried to descend from the ceiling, but it didn't really work.
Great to have you back, man. Your YouTube channel has been great. Keep going, you're doing amazing work, and stay strong. A few rosés coming for you next time I'm in London. Oh, it's Ten Ruzza!
Yeah.
Sorry, Ten Ruzza. I just did I read the name as well?
Yeah, you did.
Totally blanked out. And yeah, Ten Ruzza, our wonderful Australian friend who bought us all the liquor
all in
weekend. And some Guinness for you too, Ollie. Love you guys. Also, Dan, your thoughts on AEW, if you have watched recently. Hurt Syndicate is fun.
I haven't had as much time to watch AEW. I have I watched most of AEW on YouTube. I'll be honest with you.
I will send you a compilation of Shelton Benjamin just destroying people.
Yeah.
He has been so good.
It's Shelton Benjamin, plot twist.
Yeah, but he's been like nothing forever.
This is true.
Just a good reminder that he is awesome.
Yeah.
Mox is brutal and women have been cooking. It's 2024. Ten Ruzza. Can't do a kitchen
Well
joke
done.
in
Yeah,
2024.
absolutely.
Super pumped for Kenny Omega at New Japan tomorrow night. Power struggle. Yeah, hopefully he's going to announce that he's going to come back in the ring. Missing the blonde Dan, but looking good, man. Ollie, you the man. Shout out to Baron Corbin, Tegan Knox, and our Aussie Indy Hartwell was surprised by Corbin the most. Think they will be TNA bound or MLW. Looking forward to Indy doing a show back home here. Also, Dan, thoughts on the WWE ID thing? Also, sorry, Ten Hag, go Rud.
Rude, first of all. Rude, Van Nistelrooy. Okay. It's not... You're on fire. The interesting thing, not to go off too hard about the WWID thing and that, but I don't love sort of like monopolizing the indies in that way. I don't think it's... I don't know. I haven't read too much about what it's intended to do and how it will operate and all that stuff. But I think for me, the way it ties into Corbin, Tegan, and Indy, it's never nice when anyone loses their job, especially when I think Indy is a really positive presence and, you know, seems to be really enjoying herself. Tegan never really got an opportunity. She sort of represents that weird tug of war period between Triple H and Vince, where she was supposed to battle Becky Lynch and then she wasn't, and then she wasn't, and she was. It's frustrating. And then Baron Corbin, who is a prime example of what happens when you take a reset, and I think there was some real opportunities. I personally would have had the Breaker Corbin tag team. The War Dogs.
Wolf Dogs?
Wolf Dogs. Who are the War Dogs?
War Dogs, I think, were Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre.
Yeah. Not to be confused with the Graveyard Dogs, of course, of Roman Reigns and The Undertaker. They love a dog. But
I agree. Baron Corbin, that was the first thing I thought of when Corbin
especially because Breaker, like, not at the expense of Breaker's current run, but having them come up and using their tag team in a storyline, redeveloping the tag team division, and then allowing Breaker to go off and do his thing would have been... So, yeah, missed opportunities from all of them. However, the industry is such now that I don't fear for them as much as in the past. If you were released from WWE, it was like, well, what are you going to do? There's not really an industry to speak of. And just through sheer force of will from independent promoters and independent wrestlers, and you know, Tony Khan and AEW and Cody Rhodes doing what he did and the books and all that stuff, the industry has gotten to a place where a release is not as much of a death knell as it used to be. So the hand in hand with the ID and the releases, I think it's a really weird... I don't really like the idea of the ID thing, but I haven't read too much about it, so I can't fully comment.
Well, you know, it's just...
I bet Luke's fuming about it.
In its best form, it could be really, really positive. But it does seem to be set up in a way that WWE could flick a switch and it clamps down a lot of people from, you know, going to AEW, really. And just looking at past experience, multiple times, WWE have always eventually flicked that switch.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
But maybe, you know, it is a new era for them. Haven't you heard? Thank you very much for joining us here today on the WrestleTalk channel. Go over to the WrestleTalk podcast channel. Subscribe over there if you don't watch us every week, because Luke and I review Raw there, and we've also got an AEW review too. And watch my edited review of Crown Jewel on this very channel. If you know, an hour and 10 minutes isn't enough for you, you can watch it in edited form. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. Dan Layton is going to press the end graphic card.
Peace.
But before he goes, just going to say, love you all and see you soon.
Love you all and see you soon.
When will we see you soon?
I don't know yet. Well, I'll see you in a couple of days, but I don't know when the next one is.
What are we doing in a couple of days?
I'm here for a shoot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I won't say what. Keep that under my toop. But yeah, I'll see you in a bit. Peace.
Jam that jam.
Oh, I'm not ready yet.
Oh, donate to Movember as well. The link's in the video description below.